She renounced it all. Dozens of ancestral titles, centuries-old castles, and untold riches valued at billions of euros. And all for one singular purpose. At the age of 85, to marry a humble civil servant, a man a quarter-century her junior. At the epicenter of this royal scandal, which fractured Spain, lay a legendary diamond tiara, a silent witness to her first, seemingly flawless marriage. Newspapers clamored about the grand aristocrat's final caprice. But what if, beyond the dazzling sparkle of these precious stones, lurked a narrative far more intricate and heart-wrenching? Today, we'll peel back the layers of gossip to uncover the unvarnished truth. What truly compelled the world's most titled woman to wager her entire legacy for one final gamble at happiness? The year was 1947. Europe, still grappling with the raw scars of the Second World War, languished in an era of strict austerity and muted hopes. Yet, in a Spain hermetically sealed under Franco's authoritarian grip, the aristocracy, seemingly existing in a gilded vacuum, stubbornly clung to centuries-old traditions of lavish luxury. It was within this crucible of stark contrasts between widespread deprivation and the unyielding magnificence of the old world that an event destined for legendary status began to take shape. The wedding of the young Cayetana Fitz-James Stuart, the 18th Duchess of Alba. This was no mere matrimonial ceremony. It was a strategically orchestrated dynastic alliance, forged to fortify the standing of one of Europe's most ancient and distinguished noble houses. The groom was Don Luis Martínez de Irujo y Artascos, the distinguished scion of the equally venerable ducal house of Sotomayor. For Cayetana's father, Jacobo Fitz-James Stuart, it was paramount that the wedding festivities of his sole heiress serve as an undeniable testament to the indomitable spirit and enduring might of the House of Alba. In this meticulously choreographed tableau of power and prestige, every single detail held profound significance. Yet, none was more crucial than the bride's crowning jewel, a tiara destined to eclipse all other renowned European treasures. The commission for such an unparalleled masterpiece was bestowed upon none other than the venerable Parisian jewelry house Mellerio Ditz Mella, the oldest in the world, whose artisans had meticulously served the royal courts of France and Spain for untold centuries. However, a more compelling and arguably more plausible narrative suggests the tiara was crafted by the esteemed Spanish court jewelers Ansorena, a more logical choice given the nation's political isolation during that era. The challenge confronting the jewelers was monumental, not merely to fabricate an exquisite ornament, but to forge a potent symbol. The tiara was envisioned as a tangible reflection of both the lineage's ancient grandeur and immense wealth, alongside the vibrant youth and spirited character of Cayetana herself. The bride's father adamantly rejected the notion of repurposing one of the family's existing historical adornments. He yearned for a fresh genesis, a potent emblem of a nascent era for the House of Alba, one that his daughter would personally usher in and lead. The design brief was both elegantly simple and brilliantly ingenious. The tiara would be fashioned from platinum and diamonds, yet eschew the rigid lines of imperial grandeur in favor of a delicate, vibrant floral motif. This choice subtly alluded to natural beauty, burgeoning youth, and bountiful fertility, all the auspicious attributes expected of the future Duchess. And so, the genesis of a legend commenced. The master jewelers of Ansorena, acutely aware of the monumental historical weight of the commission, embarked upon a labor destined to become the undisputed zenith of their artistry. They were crafting not merely a bridal accessory, but a future heirloom, a silent, glittering testament to enduring power and unbroken lineage. Even before its grand public debut, this tiara was predestined to etch itself into the annals of history, a resplendent embodiment of the fading aristocratic era's brilliance, a defiant declaration of opulence in a world still scarred by devastation. At first glance, one might not perceive a tiara at all, but rather a fragment of an enchanted garden, eternally captured in platinum and diamonds, as if plucked at dawn and still shimmering with an ethereal, icy dew. Its foundation eschews rigid imperial symmetry, opting instead for a masterful, almost sentient intertwining of delicate floral garlands. Platinum tendrils curve and undulate with a natural, unconstrained rhythm, artfully forming nascent buds poised on the brink to unfurl, and fully blossomed flowers, each crowned with precious gems. This design lacks the cold geometry of power. Instead, it pulses with life, whispers promises of the future, and embodies the tenderness of youth, a perfect echo of the young bride herself. The jewelers meticulously set hundreds of diamonds, varying in size and cut, predominantly antique, which bestowed upon the piece a distinctive, soft luminescence. Unlike modern stones, with their laser-sharp precision, these diamonds don't scream their value. They subtly murmur, playing with light at the slightest movement. They were set in a pavé technique with such breathtaking artistry that the platinum foundation virtually disappears, giving the illusion that a constellation of stars had spontaneously woven itself into a floral wreath. The total carat weight of the stones was monumental, equivalent to the cost of several grand Madrid mansions of that era. Yet, the tiara as we know it today didn't emerge instantly. Initially, it was a creation of pure diamonds, cold, dazzling, and royally unyielding. It was Cayetana herself, already married, who made the pivotal decision that would forever alter the ornament's character and make it truly her own. At her personal behest, sizable natural pearls were seamlessly integrated into the design, replacing a portion of the diamonds and taking pride of place within the floral clusters. This gesture was profoundly symbolic. The large, perfectly spherical pearls, with their impeccable luster, imbued the composition with an added layer of softness, warmth, and timeless elegance. Their milky white, almost lunar glow entered into a captivating dialogue with the icy fire of the diamonds. Cold opulence yielded to a beauty imbued with soul. This was no longer merely a status symbol bestowed by her father. It had transformed into a personal talisman, refined by its owner to reflect her own exquisite taste and spirited personality. Imagine for a moment its substantial weight, the palpable coolness of platinum against her skin. Every turn of her head ignited hundreds of diamond facets into a kaleidoscope of 1,000 lights, while the pearls It was no sterile museum artifact. It was forged to dazzle at glittering balls, to capture the flicker of candlelight, and to be an inseparable part of its owner's iconic presence. Ultimately, the jewelers achieved something far grander than simply a tiara. They crafted a tangible manifestation of Cayetana's destiny. Within a single object, two profound essences converged: the indomitable power and ancient lineage of the House of Alba, immortalized in eternal diamonds, and the personal narrative of a woman, her grace, her unwavering will, and her distinctive style reflected in the warm glow of the pearls. It was her personal heraldic crest, meticulously forged from pure light and aspiration. October 12, 1947. Seville held its breath in anticipation. Against a backdrop of widespread post-war scarcity, a magnificent wedding procession wound its way through streets thronged with thousands of curious citizens toward the grand cathedral. This was more than a marriage. It was a resounding declaration. A declaration that the grandeur of Spain and its aristocracy remained vibrantly alive, come what may. On this momentous day, the world caught its first glimpse of the House of Alba Tiara in all its dazzling splendor. As the 21-year-old Cayetana emerged from her carriage, a collective gasp rippled through the crowd. She wore a sumptuous satin gown by Madrid designer Flora Villarreal, intricately embroidered with the finest Brussels lace, and atop her head rested that very treasure. It was the tiara, still in its pristine, purely diamond version without the pearls, that secured her lengthy lace veil. Under the brilliant Andalusian sun, hundreds of stones ignited with an icy fire, transforming the bride into an almost otherworldly vision. This was no mere bridal diadem. It was the crown of an heiress, a breathtaking display of unyielding power and immense wealth. The moment Cayetana took her first steps toward the altar, the tiara transcended its role as a mere adornment. It became the triumphant crescendo in a meticulously orchestrated spectacle, a symbol of continuity and the future might of the House of Alba, now passing into the capable hands of this formidable young woman. The reverberations of this event were deafening. The global press, including the New York Times, spared no superlatives, proclaiming the celebration the most extravagant wedding in the world. Its budget, by some estimates, amounted to the equivalent of $20 million in today's currency, frankly eclipsing in sheer scale even the impending nuptials of British Princess Elizabeth, a personal friend of Cayetana. The wedding photographs circulated worldwide, and in every single one, the primary focus, beyond the joyous faces of the newlyweds, was her, the diamond floral tiara. It instantly ascended to the ranks of Europe's most recognizable jewels. Its debut was an absolute triumph. It didn't merely adorn the bride, it crowned her in the eyes of the entire world. On that day, not only was a new family born, but a legend emerged, and the name of that legend would forever be inextricably linked with the Duchess of Alba. The wedding festivities subsided, and for the diamond tiara, a true life began, one far more eventful than a single day of triumph. It became Cayetana's silent companion throughout the 26 years of her first, and as many believed, happiest marriage. This period, filled with the birth of 6 children, the glitter of European balls, and quiet domestic bliss within the Lyria Palace, was truly the golden age for this magnificent jewel. It was during these very years that the tiara assumed its definitive, recognizable form. Cayetana, endowed with an innate sense of style and a fierce reluctance to blindly adhere to convention, made a bold decision. She instructed the jewelers to replace a portion of the dazzling yet cool diamonds with large, warm pearls. This gesture was her personal declaration. She was not merely a guardian of legacy, she was its architect. The tiara ceased to be a paternal gift and transformed into her very own treasure, reflecting her unique taste and inherent grace. From that moment forward, the reimagined jewel became her working crown. Whenever protocol demanded that the Duchess of Alba appear in the full splendor of her status, be it a state reception hosted by Generalissimo Franco, a royal wedding in London, or a glittering charity ball in Monaco, it was this very tiara that shone upon her head. It didn't languish gathering dust in a vault. It lived a full, vibrant life, bearing witness to the most pivotal political and social events of mid-20th century Europe. Over time, the tiara became inseparable from Cayetana's own persona. It transformed into her calling card, an attribute as recognizable as her unruly cascade of curls or her fervent passion for flamenco. Photographers captured its sparkle, journalists lauded its magnificence. For the public, the phrase ALBA tiara unequivocally referred to this floral marvel of diamonds and pearls. It wasn't simply one of many jewels in her vast collection, it was the crown jewel. But beneath the public brilliance lay a deeply personal narrative. This tiara observed Cayetana's metamorphosis from a young bride into a self-assured mother of a large family, the formidable head of one of Spain's most powerful clans. Every public appearance she made was entwined with her beloved husband, Luis. In the dazzling glimmer of its stones, his admiring gazes were reflected. For the Duchess, it was more than a symbol of wealth. It was a talisman of their blissful union, a silent keeper of her most cherished memories. Herein lay the central paradox and the enduring charm of this era. A stately, aristocratic regalia crowned the head of a woman who adored life in all its vibrant manifestations, who befriended bullfighters and artists, and who could spontaneously break into a flamenco dance right on the street. The tiara symbolized her duty, while her radiant smile and sparkling eyes embodied her freedom. And it was in this harmonious unity of delightful contradictions that the unique style of the Duchess of Alba truly resided. For nearly 3 decades, the diamond and pearl diadem stood as a symbol of absolute idyll, of unbreakable family happiness and unwavering stability. No one could have predicted that its luminous glow would soon be overshadowed by the encroaching shadows of personal tragedies and scandalous headlines, forever altering the history of this treasured jewel. The luster of that golden age, however, could not endure indefinitely. The first shadow fell upon the tiara's history in 1972, when Luis Martinez de Irujo succumbed to leukemia after a long and courageous battle. The joyous era that this precious ornament so perfectly symbolized came to an abrupt end. The tiara, once a witness to countless blissful moments, was carefully placed into the vaults of Liria Palace, becoming a poignant relic, a poignant reminder of a happiness irrevocably lost. Its light dimmed with the departure of Cayetana's beloved husband. As the years rolled on, the Duchess married again, this time to Jesus Aguirre, an intellectual and former priest. Their union, though happy in its own way, also ended tragically when Aguirre passed away from cancer in 2001. Left alone once more, Cayetana plunged into a prolonged depression. In a desperate bid to reclaim not just the joy of living, but also her fleeting youth, she turned to numerous plastic surgeries. And here, a cruel paradox emerged. While the diamonds and pearls of her tiara remained eternally flawless, the living face of their wearer, many observed, became distorted beyond recognition. Then, just as it seemed the Duchess's story was heading for a quiet twilight, a thunderclap echoed across all of Spain. In the late 2000s, news broke of her romance with Alfonso Diaz, a modest civil servant who was younger than her by 24 years. The public, which had once celebrated her first wedding with such fervor, now erupted in outrage. Tabloids screamed about a gold-digging Alphonse, the Duchess's children implored her to reconsider, and the royal house remained in disapproving silence. At the epicenter of this scandal, invisibly present, was the diamond and pearl tiara itself. It stood as the paramount symbol of the colossal legacy that, in the public's eyes, the commoner Diaz was encroaching upon. For Cayetana's children, the very idea of this man becoming their mother's husband and entering the family was unbearable. The tiara became the banner of their resistance. The rumors were ugly and merciless. Whispers claimed the Duchess had lost her mind, that her new chosen one was a master manipulator. Yet, behind the sensational headlines, a documented reality lay hidden. To prove the sincerity of her affections and appease her children, Cayetana made an unprecedented move. She preemptively divided her entire multi-billion-dollar fortune among her heirs during her lifetime, retaining only the right to reside in her palaces. Alfonso Diaz, in turn, formally renounced any claim to his future wife's titles and wealth through a notarized declaration. The tiara, once a symbol of finding happiness, now stood as a silent witness to the price the Duchess was willing to pay for her last chance at it. The wedding took place on October 5, 2011. But this was a vastly different celebration, stripped of the imperial grandeur of 1947. The ceremony unfolded within a small, intimate circle at the Palacio de las Dueñas in Seville, Cayetana's beloved residence. And on that day, the legendary tiara did not adorn the head of the 85-year-old bride. This gesture spoke louder than any words. The tiara, which had symbolized her first marriage, her youth, and her union with an aristocrat of equal standing, remained locked away in the family vault. By wearing it, Cayetana would have, in a sense, betrayed Luis's memory, elevating Alfonso to his equal. This choice underscored that an era had irrevocably passed. Following the Duchess's passing in November 2014, the fate of her vast jewelry collection became a subject of intense scrutiny. According to her will, Drafted before her third marriage, all historical jewels, including the famed tiara, were divided among her 6 children. However, by an unwritten law of European aristocracy, the most iconic pieces, especially wedding tiaras, traditionally passed to the eldest son, the new head of the House of Alba, so that his wife might wear them at ceremonial events. Thus, the diamond and pearl tiara officially changed hands. Its new custodian became Carlos Fitz-James Stuart, the 19th Duke of Alba. Yet, this was merely a legal formality. In truth, the exquisite ornament slipped into a long slumber. For many years, it did not appear in public. The new Duchess of Alba, Matilda Solis Beaumont, never once wore the legendary jewel, not even after her divorce from Carlos. The tiara, it seemed, had retreated into the shadows alongside its legendary mistress. This period of oblivion was momentous. The jewel, which for nearly half a century had been at the heart of Europe's high society, transformed into a museum piece, locked away in a safe. It became a symbol of a bygone era, a silent testament to a woman whose unique personality and lifestyle were utterly inimitable. The true end of an era arrived not on the day of Cayetana's death, but at the precise moment when her beloved tiara last caught the light, plunging thereafter into the silent darkness of the vault, awaiting its next hour to shine. Years passed, and the tiara remained silent, imprisoned in the velvet darkness of the family safe. The world, it seemed, had grown accustomed to the thought that this treasure, so intimately connected to Cayetana's unparalleled persona, would never again grace the public eye. But truly great treasures are not destined to remain forever in the shadows. Their destiny is to gleam, marking new chapters in history. And that hour had arrived. October 6, 2018. Aristocratic Europe descended upon the Liria Palace in Madrid for the wedding of the future head of the house, Fernando Fitz-James Stuart, and his chosen bride, Sofia Palazuelo. The press and public held their breath in anticipation. Would the new Alba bride dare to wear the piece that had been the calling card of the legendary Cayetana? This was the moment of truth. And as Sofia, in an elegant gown of her own design, took her first steps as the future Duchess of Alba, the world beheld it. Atop her head, holding a simple tulle veil in place, she shone. It was an entirely new interpretation of the masterpiece. On Sofia, with her understated elegance and aristocratic simplicity, the tiara looked different. The aura of rebellion and eccentricity that Cayetana had imparted to it was gone. The jewel presented itself in its pristine, pure splendor as a symbol not of personal will, but of centuries-old dynastic tradition. If, on Cayetana, the tiara had been a challenge and a part of her vibrant image, then on Sofia it became an homage, a sign of continuity and acceptance of her new role in the great history of the lineage. The tiara's return created a sensation. Fashion magazines and historical publications worldwide published photographs of the two Alba brides, Cayetana in 1947 and Sofia in 2018. This comparison was incredibly telling. It demonstrated not merely a change of generations, but the immortality of the artifact itself. The tiara proved to be a bridge spanning 70 years of history, connecting the post-war era with the digital 21st century. On that day, the jewel's value reached its absolute zenith. It ceased to be merely Cayetana's tiara. It officially became the principal wedding tiara of the House of Alba, transitioning from the category of personal property to the rank of a dynastic regalia. Its triumphant return to the world stage confirmed that its story did not end with the death of its most famous owner. It proved that it was more than the history of one, albeit great, woman. It is an eternal symbol and an unshakable asset of one of Europe's most noble families. Today, the diamond and pearl tiara rests in the treasury of the Liria Palace in Madrid, the primary residence of the Dukes of Alba. Formally, its custodian is the current head of the house, Carlos Fitz-James Stuart. But in essence, it no longer belongs to one person. It has become part of an inalienable legacy, a fundamental treasure that will be passed down from one duke to another, as an eternal symbol of the lineage's unbroken continuity and grandeur. Its status has changed forever. From a personal, almost everyday adornment for Cayetana, it has transformed into a sacred historical artifact. Now, it is not an accessory that can be worn to any formal dinner, but a dynastic regalia. Its public appearances are now strictly regulated by protocol and reserved only for the most significant events in the family's life, primarily the weddings of future Duchesses of Alba. It has become a crown, not just a piece of jewelry. To assess its monetary value is not just difficult, but meaningless. Its true worth lies in its impeccable provenance. Woven into this tiara are the history of post-war Europe, the splendor of the most expensive wedding of its time, and of course, the charisma and tragic fate of Cayetana herself. Every diamond, every pearl holds the memory of decades of history, rendering it utterly priceless. Of course, it possesses a material value, platinum, hundreds of antique diamonds, and large natural pearls, but this is only a small fraction of its actual price. If one were to imagine the unthinkable, that this tiara might one day appear at a Christie's or Sotheby's auction, it would ignite a global sensation. Collectors would vie not for carats, but for the right to possess a tangible fragment of a grand history. Despite the tiara being in a private collection, for Spain it is a national treasure, a keeper of the eternity and brilliance of one of its greatest houses. So, let us return to the question we posed at the very beginning. What compelled the world's most titled woman, the possessor of untold riches, to stake everything on a final, scandalous marriage? Was it madness, as the newspapers screamed? The answer to that question is given by the very history of her diamond tiara. This jewel is not merely a chronicle of the House of Alba, it is a mirror to Cayetana's very soul. By choosing not to wear the tiara at her third wedding, she wasn't disavowing her past. On the contrary, she showed it the greatest respect. She understood that this crown was the emblem of her first, ideal love, a symbol of an era that would never return. By leaving it in the treasury, she etched a clear boundary, separating sacred memories from her right to happiness in the present. This gesture proved that her decision was no mere whim of advanced age, but the deliberate choice of a woman who, throughout her life, had prioritized genuine emotion over rigid protocol and societal expectations. This tiara is a tangible embodiment of a life fully lived. In its diamonds, the dazzling light of youth and the triumph of 1947 were captured. In its pearls, the tender wisdom of a contented wife and mother found its reflection. In its long period of oblivion, the sorrow of two profound losses resided. And in its triumphant return upon a new heir, the enduring immortality of the very lineage to which Cayetana had dedicated her life. It journeyed from a wedding gift to a dynastic regalia, evolving from a mere symbol of status into a profound witness of human drama. It stands as an ode to a love unafraid of time, to a loyalty more potent than death, and to a powerful will to live that dared to defy the entire world. And today, as it gleams upon the new Duchess, the tiara does more than simply adorn her. It silently recounts the saga of its first mistress, affirming a simple yet profound truth. True masterpieces are not measured in carats. Their true worth lies in their ability to forever preserve the indelible imprint of a great woman's soul. A woman who loved life more passionately than all her titles and diamonds combined.